Hey everyone, this time we read Embedded with Games by Cara Ellison. This is a pretty interesting book because uh, Cara took this as like a bunch of blog entries and turned it into a book. It was about a project she did where she spent a year going embedded with a bunch of indie developers all around the world. I say embedded, but it's kind of more like she just went there and lived with them. When I think embedded, I think something a little bit different, but that's besides the point. Now, Kara talks to a whole bunch of different people, and there's kind of a weird thing that starts off at the beginning where I wasn't too sure about it because she just kind of hops back and forth between California and Europe, and I was at first thinking, can we see people from other parts of the world? I know other indie developers are active, and I was kind of disappointed at first, but it got better as the book went on. That being said, we still don't really go to a lot of the places that I wish we would have gone to. I know this was really kind of limited by our social circle, so we didn't really get to see any indie developers outside of really the United States, Europe, and also Asia. That doesn't take away from my enjoyment of the book, but it was something that I kind of wish there was a little bit more explanation of. Now, initially I was a little bit caught off guard with this book because I've gotten so used to reading just the chapters and everything else that goes into a regular book, and this one didn't do that. It kind of feels more like point of views or a different way that books get formatted, where Kara goes to each individual person, you get a little bit of her story, as well as sort of some reflections on her experiences, especially when she gets sick later on. Now, this is mostly because these are either blog entries or I think Patreon updates, but it still is a little bit jarring at first. I got used to it, and I started kind of enjoying it because you do learn a lot about the people that she interacts with, and you get to learn quite a bit about Kara herself. So I mentioned how Kara jumps back and forth between the United States and Europe. Specifically, it's California, New York, the UK, France, and Amsterdam. You don't really go into a lot of the other countries, and I don't know if she did go into other countries in Europe or other parts of the United States and they were just kind of left out for like editing reasons, but there does seem to be quite a bit of time that's missing in this like year-long trip that she goes on. It could be that the writing doesn't give me a good sense of how long each one of these trips takes. She does mention time frames within each post, but kind of as the reader I was a little bit confused because even though I know traveling does take its toll and she does talk about the trips taking a toll on herself, it kind of felt like, okay, one day you're here, one day you're there, the next day you're over here. Even though you could read that time is passing, it just kind of felt a little weird. And also I do wish that she had been able to go to like Germany or even to some Eastern European countries. But again, I think this was limited to her social circle. If she does explain in here why she chose the people that she chose, I missed that, and I do apologize for that. Quite a few of the game developers in here, not all of them, but a few of them, they do kind of have a similar story where they started out at bigger studios and kind of either got disenfranchised with them or didn't really like that they didn't have the same creative freedom that they could have as an indie. So you meet a lot of people that left the larger studios to become their own indie developers. That's kind of a cool thing that I wish more of that had been pulled at, but it's kind of limited specifically to Kara's memory also. I don't know if this was edited when it was turned into a book either. Personally, that's what I would have liked to know, but I'm not Kara, so I can't really criticize her for that because that would have been me, and like I would have written a different and probably terrible book about this. So a lot of the games that are made in here, I believe, are PC and mobile titles, which is something that I don't really have a whole lot of experience with. I don't really get too into like the PC indie developers, and I don't really care about mobile games at all, to be perfectly honest. I know that's kind of weird, but it's not my preferred way to play a game. So hearing about some of the mobile developers and sort of what they're doing, that was pretty interesting to me because I always thought they were just bad touchscreen games, or something from like one of the major studios where they're like, let's just release a crappy version of an RPG that people used to like. Or you would find like not really rip-offs, but like a knockoff game, kind of like an Asylum film, where they release a movie that's got a similar title to a movie that's already in theaters. That's kind of what I thought the mobile market was. Like a lot of time waster games and stuff like that. But to hear a lot of the stories of these guys, these people that are doing, it's really interesting to hear some of their stories and to get a lot of the games that they have. I haven't tried any of them, but I might see if they're still around. This whole project was done about 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't know how many of those games are still on the market. That's why I don't really want to mention them right now, just in case people try to find them and they don't exist anymore. Because this book is a few years old, I really hope that these people are still doing what they love, and if they're still doing video game development, I hope that it's still going well for them. I thought about checking up to see how a lot of these developers are still doing online, just to see what their histories were, but there are so many in here that I was like, I don't really have time to knock that out. I hope that they're all doing well, because I kind of feel like I did get to know them a little bit. One thing that this book did remind me of was sort of like Atari from the 1980s. Kind of how they mistreated a lot of their developers, and then those developers left and formed their own companies. That was kind of how I felt when I was going through these and reading a lot of the people that had left the larger studios. I was like, wow, that story kind of sounds like the people that founded Activision, or the people that founded Magic, or EA before EA became an ungodly, horrible monster. It sounded a lot more like their original stories, where it was like, we want to put the developers first, we want them to get recognition, we don't think they're being treated well at the other companies, so we want to leave like Atari and form our own stuff. That was kind of what I was feeling when I was reading this, and that could just be me, but you guys can see some of the parallels between sort of Atari in the 80s and Activision, and also what these indie developer stories are today. So that's going to wrap it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is a book I really did enjoy reading. I can't really express that enough. I liked reading a lot of the stories about some of these indie developers. Even if the games that they were making I didn't really have a whole lot of interest in, I did find a lot of their personal stories very interesting. And like I said earlier, I hope they're all still doing well. So I'll see you guys next time. Let me know what you think about the video. Please put it in the comments below. If you loved it or hated it, just let me know so I can see what I can improve or change for the next video. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, and have a great day.